Hello and welcome to my sad studio. Now, why is it called sad? Well, I am a stay-at-home dad. I think it's funny. I have a main channel called The Sad Life where I talk about things that make life better. But on this channel, I like to focus on all things YouTube, all things camera related, studio related. So today I thought it'd be fun to show an updated studio tour so you can see the gear that I'm using, how I've got it set up, and we can talk about it in the comments below. So we moved last year from the mainland to the island. You can get a lot more space out here. We are lucky enough that I was able to have my own room, which I could dedicate to my YouTube studio. This room is tucked into the very back corner of the house where it doesn't have a lot of Wi-Fi or anything like that. Now, when we moved in here, the floors were all nasty carpet, so I had to pull it all out. I sanded and painted all the concrete in the basement, and now it looks very clean. But the problem with that is the sound, the echo. It was horrible. Now, I'll talk more about that in just a moment. I painted the room, put on blackout curtains, so this is where the magic happens. I'll go through the room and talk about all the lights one by one, but let's start off with the camera. I'm rocking the Sony ZV-E1. I've been through quite a number of cameras over the last couple years, and I settled on this one because I think for the price, you just get so much value. My last few videos might seem like I'm kind of hating on the camera a little bit, but once you work within what the camera can handle, it's just fantastic. I still love it. I usually shoot in 4K 30, S-Log 3. I usually have the ISO around 800. I follow the 180 rule, so the shutter speed is at 160 and just have the regular zone or area autofocus on. I don't have breathing compensation on because I'm not getting too close to the camera very often, and I want that extra little bit of reach. Every little tiny crop kind of matters. As far as the lens goes, I chose the Sony 24mm f1.4 G Master lens. It is not the cheapest lens by any means, but I just love the bokeh that it offers, the look, the color. Having that f1.4, it's just a treat. This is a very low light space with one window, which I have covered. So the smaller pixels, the bigger pixels, the full frame lets in so much light. Light is color, light is quality. This is why I chose this camera and lens combo. I've got some lens on the shelves over there. I'll talk about those in just a minute. But I just find for how far I like to sit away from the camera, the 24mm is sweet for me. I did consider the Sony 20mm f1.8 as I think that that's a sweet lens also, but I'm a sucker for that f1.4. Now, as far as my lighting goes, with my key light, I've got the Godox SL60. I've had this piece of gear for quite a while. It's an affordable cob light. It's good value. This isn't a bicolor light. It's only daylight. I think it's, 5600 Kelvin? I can't quite remember. It's under, what, 200 bucks? With it, I have the 36-inch newer softbox, and I also upgraded the crate. I just love the softness. I did some testing way back in the day. I feel like the crate really helps the light from spilling off into the background while still giving me that nice big soft look that I like. I am looking to upgrade my light in the near future. I'm not sure what I want to do yet. I'd like to get at least a bicolor light because sometimes I want to shoot with a little bit of a softer look. I can adjust white balance in post, but I'd rather just set the room up how I like it. I try and get the light as close to me as possible. I think it looks pretty good. As far as my background lights go, I have a couple newer 660s, but I don't really use them very often anymore. I have one propped up in the background on a newer stand. That's for my hair light. I also have some in the background if I ever want to just enhance or blast light or get more light in the room. I think for the value, they're pretty good. I'm not a huge fan of the LED lights like I used to be. I'm gonna go down a deep dive into lights soon. As far as my audio goes, I am using the Deity D3 Pro mic. I've been through a few microphones over the years. I still have my trusty Rode Micro, which I often put on my camera if I'm gonna vlog or take it outside, as it has a good little dead cat on it. But this one I think sounds quite nice. The only downside is I have to turn it on and off every time I record. And if you do YouTube videos, you'll know every single thing that you have to turn off and on is very annoying. But I think once this is on, I think the quality for the dollar sounds pretty good. The only downside, and I guess this doesn't have to do with the microphone, but going back to the Sony, if you look where you plug in the microphone, it's right in front of the screen and the volume sliders. So when I'm testing my audio to make sure my microphone is on, I can't see it when I'm directly in front of the camera. I really wish the Sony put the microphone input somewhere else. All right, now I do have my iPad set up here. I try and use this as I'm setting up my shot. In my last few videos, I was talking about how I wanted to have this running the whole time so I could see myself in the monitor because the flippy screen's a little bit far away sitting with this 24mm lens and where I like to be with how big I want my shot to be. So I just set it up at the beginning. It helps me make sure that my desk, because I do use my camera, I move it around a lot and I don't always put it back in the same spot. The iPad really, the extra size of the screen makes it easier to line up the shot and then I can turn it off and go from there. I also sometimes use a teleprompter. Now I've been through quite a number of teleprompters, and because I like to shoot wide with the 24mm, my old Parrot, which is a very small, low profile teleprompter, it worked well, but once you get under 28mm, you start to see the barn doors on the side. This meant I had to upgrade to a bigger teleprompter, and I went and got the Glide Gear teleprompter. I tried a couple of the other top sellers on Amazon, but they were all too big. They covered up my flippy screen. I didn't love the build quality on them, so I found this one actually on Marketplace. What is it? Prawn Store? I don't know about the name, but it's just big enough that it slides onto the front of the lens easily. It allows my 24mm to get the full shot. It's lightweight, it works great. I love it. I think even buying them new, they're quite affordable. I also still use the Parrot app on my phone. So I usually, with my workflow, when I'm scripting a video, I'll write it all out in Gmail and I have a bunch of draft emails. I know it's not the best way to do it, but the beauty of it is I can switch between all my devices and edit it whenever I want. So when I get ideas, I just open up Gmail, punch in some bullet points and go from there. And then when I'm ready to use Parrot, I put it on my teleprompter and there we go. I much prefer reading on my phone and having a smaller teleprompter because I think when people have bigger ones, you know, the bigger channels, you can see that they're far away and they're reading, they're moving their head. I like to be able to, I have margins so that the words are staying, so it looks like it's very natural. I don't always use the teleprompter, like right now, I'm just winging it, but when I have a topic that I really wanna talk about, you gotta script it. It makes the editing so much faster. Now, as far as my background lights go, I wanted every video that I do to look different. I want the colors to be slightly different to kind of help match the tone of what I'm talking about. So whether it's the lights in the background or the shirts that I'm wearing, I try to really have some type of synergy between them, some type of contrasting colors, etc. Now let me go back to the soundproofing of the room because like I said, this was a concrete floor. I freshly painted the wall. It had horrible echo. So I have put on a very big area rug, which helps, and I've put stuff on the walls. My neighbor, when they moved into their house, somebody had a studio downstairs and they had a bunch of old sound panels. So I traded him for some storage racks that go onto the roof, and he gave me a bunch of these. Now they're not the prettiest. I don't have them fastened on the wall very well, but I have them spread out throughout the room and it seems to be helping. So I'm happy enough with the audio. I've got some of these IKEA fake plants on the wall. I like the aesthetic of them. I have a little bit of art in here and I think it's starting to improve. You can also notice this beautiful looking blanket on a old mic stand that I have. Sometimes I will move that around if I'm noticing an echo to kind of help muffle the sound to make it sound a little bit better. I have a couple different desks set up throughout this space. Sometimes I use them for B-roll, depending on what products I'm reviewing or talking about. I like to have the options. As far as my sitting spot goes, my chair and my desk aren't anything special. I would like to eventually upgrade my desk as well. This one I think is fine for now. I like how it reflects the colors on there. So it's fine. I don't really want to spend money unless I need to. So I think I got this at a used thrift store for 20 bucks and the chair was at the IKEA as is section. I do have a old IKEA studio chair, but because the Wi-Fi is so bad in this room, I used to have my desktop down here, but either running a cable or like I said, the Wi-Fi sucked. So now with my MacBook, I do all my video editing upstairs. And I'll talk about that in just a moment. Now on the shelves in the background here, these shelves are just items that spark joy for me. Got old camera gear, this old camcorder. I have the Sony 28mm, which is a really neat little value lens. I have my Tamron 17-28, which I like because it just gets a nice wide shot with the full frame. I have random art, my mindful monkey, just some neat trinkets and things like that. Now I also black out the curtains. I have a curtain rod that I just put up. It's nice having the window open, but the thing is, as clouds move by, the lighting changes. And when you're editing, I like to edit out all the uhs and ums and breaks, and sometimes even just a second or two, or when I clip out the big pauses, the light changes. I really prefer having a controlled space where the sun and the clouds aren't gonna bother me, and this way I can edit the video so it looks a little more natural, it flows a little bit better without the light constantly changing. But this is also why I am such a big fan of the full frame, because with a smaller sensor in this room, you can really notice the difference. So let's talk about that, because I have here the DJI Pocket 3. Now it's funny because I was gonna return this thing, but what I didn't read when I bought it was there's a restocking fee of like 150 bucks. So I decided I'm gonna keep this thing. Let me turn it on right now. It's cool, I like it. I love having this tool in the lineup, but for inside stuff, because I do want to be an extra B cam for a different shot in here, I don't think this is quite good enough. I think in the low light, the tiny little sensor of this camera, while it's small for a reason so that it's easy to stabilize because it's light, it's perfect for an outdoor moving camera. That's what it's for. It's not for this stuff. The Sony, I just love the colors on it. And when I compare them side by side, here I can do that right now. It's really no contest as to just quality. And I know YouTube compression kind of gets rid of a lot of that quality, but still, when I work on the files, I love what the Sony footage has to offer. Back in my closet, you know where the storage is, I've got an old camera bags and hockey cards and white balanced cards. There's just things that you don't really use but are nice to have. It's nice to have a bit of that extra storage. As far as my light stands and microphone stands, everything is mostly newer stuff from Amazon, not necessarily because I recommend it, but just because it was the cheapest at the time. The reviews seemed great, and after having them for a while, the quality is sufficient. It would be nice one day to get a key light on wheels. I think the DSLR shooter guy recommends a C-stand and has tutorials on that, so I might follow those one day. I've got this little extending arm, it's a little Samsung arm that I have on another little newer stand just to be able to kind of move my microphone back and forth. The lights on the walls, they are my Govee lights. I did a bunch of videos on my other channel talking about them because like I was saying, I like to customize each shot, and I wanted an app that could tie in with the Google speaker. Because as you'll notice, right when I walk in, I have this little speaker here. My goal with this space has to make it as simple as possible. The more things that you have to turn on and remember, the less it makes you want to do it. So I put in a smart plug, I think it's a Casa smart power bar underneath here. I have everything plugged into it. So when I walk in the room and say, okay, turn off studio. Well, there we go. I have one light, and I reviewed it on this channel. Okay, we'll turn on studio. It was the iVisi lights. It's the only thing that I have to turn on, but I like having it there. I think it just illuminates the plant a little bit. I can change that light around to make it complement one of the other colors in the background. So that's the Govee Glide Hexa light. I also have these Govee tube lights in the corner, which I'm not really sure what to do with. I kind of just like them there on the floor. I don't know. This is a cool little camera to have. Comes with a little mic as well, which I'm still playing around with. I think as the weather is starting to get better in spring, I will use these things a lot more. So I'm still a bit of a noob with them. And then as far as my computer goes, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you'll know I've spent a lot of time trying to figure out the right computer for me. I ended up switching from Windows, started on a Windows laptop. I had a Alienware desktop, bought the M3 Max, bought the M3 Pro, and I eventually landed on the M1 Max. It's got 32 gigs of RAM, 1 terabyte hard drive. It's enough. I'm still happy with the performance. It's fantastic. You know, it's almost as good as the M3 Max, although the battery is not quite as good. Now I edit with DaVinci Resolve. I have the Studio version. The Studio version is fantastic. If you'd like to learn more about why I use that video editing software and how I use it, let me know down below. I find it's very efficient. I've got lots of shortcuts to speed up my workflow because that's what I wanted. I spent the last few months making it so I could be as efficient as possible. I've tried Final Cut a little bit. I haven't spent as much time there because I'm pretty invested into Resolve. For my mouse, I'm still using the MX Master 3S. It's very nice, although I do miss my high refresh screen on my old Windows computer. I don't really have great headphones for the audio, but I would like to upgrade those as well. So that's it. Let me know what you think. Do you like the aesthetic? I do. I think it looks cool. I love being able to customize everything, all the lights, to make it different. It's really interesting how the different colors back there and the shirts that I'm wearing affects the exposure. Every video definitely feels a lot different to me, but I have a bit more of a critical eye watching my own videos. So let me know if you have any questions. Let me know what you think. I hope you enjoyed checking out my studio and hanging out with me. I really appreciate all the support, the likes, the comments, the subs. It means a lot. Okay. Thank you so much for watching. In case you missed my last video, check that out here. Otherwise, here's a video YouTube thinks you'd like to watch next. We'll see you next time on the Sad Studio.